Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to That of the Elite Racing Network for tonight's racing adventures for the Elite Racing League. It's that of the Smokin Gobblers Truck Series here tonight for the JD's Hilltop Salvage 150. It's the start of the playoffs. A total of 11 races, 68 drivers have set the stage for tonight's event as it is the first race of the playoffs, as drivers get to test their skills at the first destination of 4 here at Las Vegas. It's a 1.5 mile course, and as you could tell by our weather, it's going to be a real crisp day for these drivers in that of the desert at Las Vegas. Only 78 degrees Fahrenheit, going to be your ambient temperature, but as the drivers are getting themselves set up, qualifying has just come to a conclusion, and we're excited to give you all the coverage here again on the Elite Racing Network. My name is Sam Dyer. I've got that of Dave Huckleberry going to be joining me as well as a co and running production, a little bit of double duty. Dave, it's exciting to see how these drivers have been running. It's time for some playoff racing action.
Yeah, we've got our final drivers ready for the action, and we got great tracks over these next 4, so it should be exciting times.
As let's take a look at those 14 drivers that are going to be running in the playoffs, as it is certainly a strong level of drivers that we're going to be having, with R.C. Anderson, the driver that's got the most wins coming into tonight's race, with 3 going to be topping the board. Then going to have that of Ethan Stanley in second, with Ethan Burrell, Alexander Van de Sent, as well as Scott Crump, going to be our top 5 drivers, and they're in the yellow because the top 5 are going to be the 5 that move on to our championship 5 that race at the end of these 4 races for a championship at Kentucky. The drivers in red, they're going to be the drivers trying to hunt to crack into the top 5. That's Matthew Weeks. That is Sean Ryan as well is going to be seeing Latham Joyner. Also that of Norgert as well is going to be seeing that of McCurdle, Jones, Abbott, as well as Hill and Dixon. Those 14 drivers all set to battle for 4 races to have a chance for the championship. But these 4 races, like we said, tonight, Las Vegas, the start of the journey. We're also going to be heading to that of the Rollville next week, North Wilkesboro in 2 weeks. In the last race to set the stage for our finale, going to be at Talladega before they go to Kentucky, where our top 5 drivers will race it out. But for tonight, here's our starting results. What's going to be that of Ethan Burrell topping the board for himself with a pole. That's going to be the second pole award given to that of Ethan Burrell this season. Scott Crump going to be to his outside, as well as that of Sean Ryan, and also that of Cody Harrington. Going to be our top 4 as we look at the rest of the results. Again, the drivers in yellow going to be the drivers that are inside of our top 5. Drivers in red outside of our top 5 are in our playoffs. And the drivers in blue, well, they're the rest of the crew out there. They're going to be having fun racing this one out as drivers continue to cycle through. We're going to have 29 drivers in total racing. A couple of drivers going to have to start out with some EOLs because of the fact that they did not have the right banners on. We're going to have Latham Joyner, Alexander Van de Sent, both going to have to start at the end of the line. That is a tough task, especially on the fact that this track is going to be very aggressive, a lot of pack racing, and easily can get caught up in some trouble being involved with some of this traffic. And David, a strong field, but the big note, there is no R.C. Anderson here tonight, so the window completely wide open on who can take his spot going into next week.
Yeah, we knew coming in that R.C. might miss a couple of the races in this round, so this will be the first one where everybody gets a chance to get a head start on him. So he really tried to race his way into having a good points lead going into the chase, so that's why he's at the top right now. So he's hoping to be able to hold on to that.
Hoping for a chance to hold on, but he's going to have a giant hill to climb out of, as again, next 3 races going to be at the Rollville, North Wilkesboro, and Talladega. I'm excited to see if RC shows up next week. Probably going to be one of the heavy favorites there. As for tonight, the 2 heavy hitters, the 2 drivers that I'm excited to watch out for, Ethan Burrell, Scott Crump, going to be our front 2, that 37 to 90. They have been quick all season long. Ethan Burrell has found himself in a victory lane back at Darlington. Can he do it once again to start out the playoffs? The pace car is off, into the restart zone, and we are green here for the JD's Hilltop Salvage 150 in the start of the 2022 B season for that of the Smokin Gobbler Barbecue Truck Series. The playoffs are on and into turn number 1. It's side by side between that of Burrell's, Crump, And here comes Crump, going to be trying to get that surge on the outside at turn number 2 as they still stay side by side. And this is where that pack racing here at the mile-and-a-half course of Las Vegas keeps it close as both drivers up front continue to keep themselves side by side through lap number 1. And at turn number 4, that first lap going to be led by Ethan Burrell just by a nose as across the line, showing just how close everyone's going to be all night long. Little bit of contact going to be made. Oh, Burrell into Crump there. Going to be taking it 3 wide for second place. Driver on the inside going to be that of Stanley, Ethan Stanley in that 91 machine. Also going to be seeing the 9 of Ryan. Going to be a little bit of contact between one another. They hold it straight for now. Cody Harrington's going to be in the middle of this, also back in 5th. And you can just see the gaggle of cars in the middle of the field. David, this is showing top 4 playoff drivers, the rest of the field, still a madhouse on where you want to go.
Starting to string out a little bit toward the back. Everybody's trying to negotiate around a couple of the bumps that are really wicked here on this Vegas track.
The bumps notoriously going to be on the inside entry of turn number 1 as Ethan Burrell got to lead himself a lap or 2, and here comes that of Ethan Stanley. Going to be on the inside, going to be leading that lap by a nose for the 91. As we are 4 laps in of 100. There is going to be some stage breaks here this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Stage 1 at that lap 35. Stage 2 at lap 65. So drivers understanding they got to be making some big moves throughout tonight and want to get those stage points. As our first caution's going to be coming out. It's back half the field. Going to be bringing out this yellow.
Looks like it's going to be Ray Bracey involved back here. We'll go to Whiskey Cast replay. The 7 car. Contacted by the 33. Is that the 83 again?
I believe that's the 83 of Wesley Crump that made that contact there. And Bracey just nowhere to go. And that's a tough spot, especially when you got this hard racing. Drivers are 3 wide. Got the 7 drifting up, thinking he's clear. As that of Wesley Crump just holding that middle lane. And there's not much you can do when you're just holding your line and the other driver drifts up in front of you. As up front, still going to be that of Ethan Burrell and Ethan Stanley. The Ethan's going to be up front, and Ethan Burrell, a driver that's got 1 win. Like I said, back at Darlington this season's got only 9 starts in total, with that of 6 top 5s, 8 top 10s. Hoping to have a solid finish for himself, especially being one of the drivers going to be 3rd in points. Solid day would be helpful, as you see there. That of the 7 getting a tally. David, those tallies, don't want them to be adding up too much throughout tonight.
Now I think you get 2 tallies and then you're done. You park it for the night. So that should be hopefully be the only time that the 7 car gets in trouble.
As also Ray going to be seeing that 7 was one of the drivers also that had a banner issue and had to start at the end of the line. So saw that aggression, was hoping to gain some positions after the poor qualifying and all the penalties also given. As other drivers of note to watch out for, as always, talk about Ethan Burrell, Scott Crump. They always seem to place themselves up front. But the drivers in the middle and back half of the field that you see in red, those are the drivers that are racing, that are in our playoffs, our top 14 that made it into the playoffs, but are outside of the top 5 of the points currently coming in to tonight's race. A lot of drivers trying to push themselves forward, but as we look back, all the way in the back was given that EOL, the 97, Alexander Van de Sant, that we also see run in plenty of our other series that we cover here at the Elite Racing Network. This 97's got a lot of work because he's only been able to go up that of 4 positions since the time that yellow came out. It's going to be a long night for Van de Sant, but obviously there's still plenty of laps still to move forward. But David, starting all the way in the back 3 drivers with the early EOL at 97, only up to 24th, just showing how difficult it is just to make passes here in the early going.
Yeah, especially with everybody double wide, there really isn't a 3rd lane to make that pass here at Las Vegas. So you really kind of have to make your way forward when you can. It's just not as many opportunities.
Slowly but surely move your way forward as we're stacking up, getting ready to get back to rolling in Green Flag Racing here this evening. It's going to be Ethan Burrell, Ethan Stanley, Scott Crump, that of Sean Ryan, Cody Harrington, as well as that of Mark Murphy. Going to be Hardcastle, Hill Jr., as well as Weeks and Norgard going to be your top 10 ready to get rolling here this evening. As this, again, is the first playoff race of that of 4 this round. It's going to be a chase format, as drivers are going to be trying to build up as many points as they can in these 4 races to see who can move in top 5 with the most points, get to move on in race at that of Kentucky. End of the season, top 5 drivers try to get the championship so coveted in the Elite Racing League. You get that championship in the Truck Series, and it almost feels like it's inevitable for you to go out and go win a championship in one of the other series that are covered here for the Elite Racing League. So we'll see who can finally crack that ceiling and get that championship for themselves. As the pace car pulls off, Ethan Burrell, Ethan Stanley up front, ready to go into the restart zone, and we're green once again for the JD's Hilltop Salvage 150, and Burrell with the fantastic start for himself. It's Stanley caught sleeping as that outside lane just does not take off, and truly you can give it to the top 5. They're all gone.
Got Crump pulls into the second spot. Ethan Stanley hung out there to dry by himself in the top lane.
Stanley, no draft help. He is going to lose some positions. He's going to fall back to 5th place potentially here, as he is still trapped on that outer lane. You don't want to stay up there for very long. That's going to use up a lot more of those tires on yourself for the right front. But as our front 2, Crump, going to be diving it down on the apron. That's free game to go down there, but it's always a risky call. It's going to be side by side for our lead. Burrell, Crump, as the 90 machine, going to poke a nose. Not going to be completely clear. Getting back into the throttle. Plenty of space given to one another. Trying to keep that respect, but you see the rest of the field 2 by 2 through the rest of the line. And just a few pockets of fresh breath of air on how you want to react as Crump going to have the nose coming across the line, going to lead lap number 9, coming to 10 in this running. Again, stage break at lap 35. Top 10 drivers hoping for a good run. And here comes Cody Harrington, a non-playoff driver, but that's 66, looking quick right now.
Yeah, we haven't seen him running up front like this all year long, so it's a great run for him tonight.
Cody Harrington's going to be just trying to poke the nose. Where do you want to go? As the other drivers also closing in on this gap. You got that of Hardcastle, Matthew Weeks. They're all trying to pick and choose where to go for themselves. As that outside lane looks strong on the straightaways because of the draft help. Through the corners, that inner lane on the entry. Able to hold steady is also trying to avoid that bump on the entry of turn 1. That is really dangerous spot if you just turn in a little bit too soon. There's an aggressive bump that can hurt you, as Ethan Stanley going to be trying to give a bump to Crump potentially to get that 90 machine going forward. But again, stalling out the super speedway like racing here at Las Vegas with these trucks. It's so difficult to fully make a pass. They continue to stay side by side, almost some contact and also some looseness from Crump from that transition. They hold on for now, but David, I mean, there's just not a lot you can do in this situation, but that outside lane just continues to burn off those tires. I would like to say I'll give the advantages. Oh, a little bit of contact behind. Going to be seeing that of the 05 getting some contact from the 66 of Harrington.
Robert Hill, one of our broadcasters for the Elite Racing Network, he volunteered tonight to broadcast from the truck while he was running, but looks like he needs to concentrate on what he's doing right now. He's got his hands full.
I think it would have been just a little bit too much of, giving up any type of focus would have been detrimental for that 05, and his full attention now on track and inside of the top 5 for the 05 as up front still Crump, Burrell, and Stanley holding strong on where they're at. That of the 9 machine of Sean Ryan. Excited to see how that 9's going to roll off as he came in 7th in points, just a couple of points out from our top 5. And with the way that R.C. Anderson did not come in to race this evening as he had prior obligations, gives it wide open for this 9 machine as well for that 05 Hill Jr. and Weeks. All have an opportunity. Want to get those big stage points as we're coming up to 20 to go before that of lap 35, which will be our first stage break. As drivers trying to hold on, but into the outside wall, it's going to be Hardcastle going backwards quickly. He went from battling inside of our top 10 now to 28th for that 20 machine.
Boy, it doesn't take long for the entire pack to pass you, does it?
It really does. And then now the 18 of Joshua Personette was ordered to go to the outside and get out of the way. Too much blinking for the 18. And now he'll have to give up all of his track position as well. But luckily, no contact for that 18 machine. But internet trouble's always something that we're keeping our eye on. You just don't want to be influencing the race in a poor manner by drivers blinking. As up front, single filing out the majority of the drivers here. But that back half battling for 8th, 9th, 10th. That is a good battle of drivers that are non-playoffs, but it is a cluster of danger that looks like it is building up the pressure on where we could see our next big one, as there are some playoff drivers in the mix of this, with Latham Joyner as well as Brett Jones and also that of Norgard, all trying to keep those nose clean, but recognizing the side-by-side action in front of them of Murphy, Holmes, as well as seeing Dustin Dorr. This is a scary spot to find yourself, and you saw that pink and purple machine in the background. That is Van de Sant up to 14th and on the charge.
Yeah, he's up 13 spots already.
Moving forward, dashing high, low, and anywhere you can go. As up front, they're staying single file, but this pack of cluster in the middle of the field certainly looking dangerous at times. And you've got to be careful, because the run goes on. These vehicles are going to get tighter in that of the center of the corner if you're not careful, but also can get wicked loose on the exit of these corners. So drivers have to constantly be focusing on how much are they getting into the throttle. Is it going to hurt them on the exit? As you see there, it is going to be Mark Murphy, Trey Holmes. They just will not give up on this battle, as the more they stay side by side, the more they're going to lose ground to our top six that continue to pull away. Dustin Dorr going all the way down to the apron, trying to cut the course, trying to minimize as much distance as possible. That's why you go down there. So Mark Murphy wasn't able to hold off the 88, might give a bump. Thought about the crossover move, but Dustin Dorr, that front bumper was just there too much, as now makes the risky call. Try to go down low, and that's going to hurt that entry for the 69. Just going a little bit too high. He's going to have to back off. Dustin Dorr gets run of the corner, and there goes the 69.
I just went in car with him. Hope I didn't jinx him.
And now going to be having to try to stay off pit entry, and he will get into pit row. That's going to be a black flag for Murphy Nichols. I mean, for that of Mark Murphy, who's trying to keep himself out of trouble, continues to go backwards. And another driver that actually is going backwards got into the wall after contact with the 66. That's Alexander Van de Sant that's having issues as he drops back to 22nd position.
Gave back some of those positions. He had just fought so hard to get back.
The tire wear showing its danger at this point as drivers trying to run side by side, but it's getting difficult. They're going to go 3 wide behind that of Alexander Van de Sant, as that is going to be Keeler, Evans, Rasmus, all going to be on top of one another, as well as seen that is Boutwell, all battling for practically last place, but every position so important when you're looking at the points. As they continue to race this one out, everyone's starting to, now with the little small pockets of incidents that we've seen, we're now starting to see the pods and the packs starting to split up, as what once was a pack of 6 pulling away from the rest of the field, though they're starting to dissipate. The front group now all starting to single file out in a lot of distance with one another. As David, we are now on lap 22. We are closing in on our stage break. Lap 35 is the number. Now the question is, will we even get to 35 before a yellow, with the way that these drivers have been dealing with the contact between one another, the tire wear, and just the aggressiveness has certainly ramped up since the drop of the green.
Robert Hill pulling right up on the back of Sean Ryan for 5th place there.
Both playoff contenders. Robert Hill dealing with some of that damage. Again, got contact between himself and the 66 of Harrington on that right side for the 05. Doing a decent job of just staying in line, keeping with the draft, going for a good points day. Don't want to throw all of the race away in an instant, but a decent day for points. The only two playoff drivers that are inside of our top 10 could be Trey Holmes as well as Dustin Dorr, trying their best to just steal any points away from playoff contenders. As Hill tries to get back in the throttle sooner, he'll get right on the back bumper of that of Ryan, down on the apron, trying to cut the course, trying to get any type of distance and advantage, but you can just tell that draft way too strong for the 9. He was getting that toe from the 11 in front, that of Ethan Stanley and that of Matthew Weeks, working with one another. The draft very strong on these straightaways, allows you to just get a couple of miles per hour to work with. When you don't have the draft, you're just hoping that you can have a big enough run out of the corner that will enable you to go forward, as we are now 10 laps away from that stage break. Scott Crump, Ethan Burrell dominating so far, and Matthew Weeks, the driver that's on the move of those that are inside of our top 10, biggest mover so far of those that are, again, inside of our top 10 with 14 positions with this pass on Ethan Stanley, if he can make it work. As the 11 has been looking very strong. Kind of surprised you look at that of Matthew Weeks' stats. Still doesn't have a win this season. And this 11, notoriously known for at least getting one every season in the trucks, could tonight finally be that night where he breaks that curse so far he's had so this season.
Yeah, he's kind of been talking all year where he thought he had a magnet in his truck that was just kind of attracting other trucks and other cars, and in all the other series he was running, he seemed to have good runs in just about every event and just would collect somebody.
And he's going to have that pass over Ethan Stanley, giving himself 14 positions. He has made it up since where he started this race, all the way back in 17th position. Behind them, some side-by-side action, that of John Ryan, Robert Hill getting some assistance for that 5th place battle as drivers are closing in. Trey Holmes, but a new contender we haven't really talked about, going to be behind in 8th position watching this group. It's Latham Joyner who's joining the fray. Joyner looks strong on the outside. This 0-3 machine has had a very confident run in the trucks, as he's going to continue to try to move forward. Comes in 8th in points and just trying to show out any way that he can. He's got 5 top 5s, 5 top 10s this season of the 11 races that have been ran. And he's going to get right on the back bumper. Will make contact with that of Ryan. And in the center of the corner, that is not where you traditionally want to give a bump to another driver. That is a very dangerous spot. Give a driver a bump. Luckily, it was square. But that easily could have spun the 9 machine around with how light the rear end wants to get in the center of the corner. Getting right on the back bumper, trying to give any assistance possible. Latham Joyner saving the tires, gonna give almost a little bit of a rub, shoving the 9 up. 0-3. You better be careful. We're in the playoffs. You don't want to be making new enemies than you already did in the regular season. But Joyner is not gonna give up. He's being relentless to crack that top 5. And Dave, that's, you can see drivers be aggressive. It's good in some terms, but certainly when you're in the playoffs, you don't want to be adding more targets on your back, knowing that you're a playoff contender.
Latham Joyner being a rookie in all these leagues, but I think I've learned from watching him all year, he really has one way, and this is his way. He goes aggressive all the time, so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but he's always pushing.
Always willing to make those moves forward, as we are in the 5-lap window of getting to the end of stage 1. As we see here, the battling still continuously cannot get over that of Ryan and Robert Hill. Robert Hill just cannot find a way to get past the 9. Just saw Latham Joyner make that aggressive move to the inside. It just seems like Hill doesn't have the same exit speed that we saw that from Latham Joyner, but Joyner also backed off. He had that outside run coming out of turn number 4. Hill might have to look for that same advantage. Go up a groove, maybe a half a groove. Just try to find any way to get that extra speed, so on that front stretch he can start to make these diving moves, because he just doesn't have enough momentum to go for an intent for the pass. And this is actually giving other drivers an opportunity, as Dustin Dorr now going to be coming into the fray here late. That 32 could be a little bit of spoiler, as he's going to bounce off the apron, just move up about a half groove for that 32. Got to be a little bit more conservative on that type of a charge, but Dustin Dorr obviously has some speed, has been saving these tires for this exact moment. Goes the outside. Watch out for this run that 32 is going to have on this front stretch. As the pits have officially been closed, the driver's set to come in for their stage break here at any moment now. We wait for that yellow flag. Scott Crump dominating up front. We keep our eyes on this battle for 6th place. Sean Ryan, Robert Hill, Trey Holmes stay in line. Dustin Doerr's going to be diving it down low below that 88. Robert Hill's going to finally figure out how to get a nose. And now with the 32 behind, could get that draft assistance that Hill was looking for. A little bit of a tap. Let's go 3 wide for a quick second as Robert Hill Jr. holds on after that tap from the 9 machine. This is all for 6th place, and they're going to go almost 3 wide here. Dustin Doerr holds that white line. That 32 trying to hold himself, squeezes, pitched in the middle. There they go, and it's Ryan. Did it down into the inside wall. Hard contact for himself right at the time that we're expecting our stage break. The 9, hard contact, able to continue to roll, but an absolute disastrous timing for a driver that was holding strong up in her top 10 that whole entire stage.
That didn't bring out the caution. The caution came out for the end of the stage, right? So,
yeah. Is it because the fact the 9 was completely spun out sideways and wrecked on the apron, never was on the quote-unquote racing surface, no yellow came out. And the yellow flag that did was the stage break. As luckily for the 9 of Sean Ryan, able to continue to roll moving forward, wasn't given a required damage flag, which is a black flag with an orange circle, given to the drivers if you have too much damage. So the 9's going to continue to race, but you got to hate to see that for one of our playoff contenders, as Scott Crump going to be our stage winner of the evening. And let's take a look at where the rest of our stage finishers are going to be. As this is our first stage break, going to be 2nd place, also going to be that of Ethan Burrell. 3rd place, going to be that of Matthew Weeks. We're going to find 4th place, Great Charger, that of Ethan Stanley. Then that of Latham Joyner going to be in 5th. 6th is going to be Robert Hill. That of Trey Holmes going to be 7th. Dustin Doerr going to get that of 8th. 9th goes to that of Jesse Rasmus, and Brett Jones coming away with 10th, as you see the drivers and where they are listed. Into pit road to get service done. Going to be that of Scott Crump, and let's see if any mistakes are made. You can easily lose 2 positions if you slide through your box. Do not want to have any of those types of mistakes. As the field comes in, Scott Crump, Ethan Burrell, this could be a massive surge on who could be that leader on this next restart. The field comes into pit road to get service done from the asphalt to the concrete. Very clean entries for themselves. Scott Crump takes on those right sides. Takes on the lefts. Gotta see ourselves. Full fuel, 4 tires. And Matthew Weeks going to be trying to make his surge forward. Not able to get it done. Scott Crump's going to take that position with Ethan Burrell, Matthew Weeks. And as the drivers take a charge to get themselves caught up to the pace car, for us up at the booth, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back in just a few moments. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and it's time to make your decisions. Where do you want to restart? As the drivers getting themselves up to the pace car. Who's going to go high? Who wants to go low on this start for themselves? As drivers are making their decisions, going to be seeing that Scott Crump deciding to take the outside lane on this restart. Interesting to see the 990 machine take that outer groove, but we saw that outside lane be so strong in the early portions of that stage 1, as we are now into stage 2. As I believe these drivers now, you have to figure out how do you take yourselves to the end of this race. This is going to be a strong run for these drivers because of the fact that we've seen there's a lot of good strength in this field. But really, Dave, it just seems like it is Ethan Burrell, Scott Crump, and can Latham Joyner or Matthew Weeks even hold a candle to them on this restart?
Yeah, they really haven't been able to get even close to their back bumper yet. So.
The drivers are just giving their final calls. Get ready, here we go. Again, for the ticker, you see all of the colorful numbers. I just want to give you a reminder that the drivers in yellow are the drivers that are in the top 5 of points in the playoffs currently. There are 14 drivers in the playoffs. Drivers in red are those that are outside of the top 5 in points in the playoffs. Drivers in blue, just the rest of the field. We are missing one playoff driver, that's R.C. Enerson. But as you can see in our ticker, top 6, all playoff contenders, all looking for major points. And we're back to green flag racing for the JD's Hilltop Salvage 150 here tonight. For that of the 2022B Smokin Gobbler Barbecue Truck Series. There's a little bit of contact bumping action on the inside lane, but Scott Crump gets that lead position. A fantastic restart for himself. And that inner lane looks strong, and here comes Latham Joyner to the outside.
Ethan Burrell diving down low. Kind of got boxed up behind Scott Crump, so he decided to go low on him. Leaves Crump out there all by himself.
Latham Joyner, with all the aggressive moving high, low, and anywhere he can go, willing to place himself in a position just to get going forward. But if you're getting this aggressive on pushing and bumping, he tries to put that 0-3's bumper on the inside of 37. He gets loose. Gotta watch out. We're gonna go 3 wide for second place as Stanley finds that momentum and a little bit of spacing to that inside lane. Joyner, though, got to be careful. They're going to be squeezing right on top of one another, and Latham Joyner not giving any space to that Stanley. As Stanley bounces off the apron, almost comes up in the 0-3. These drivers, they recognize fresh rubber. This is your best opportunity to make any types of passes in the early going. As they saw in the later runs, it was very difficult to make any types of passes when those tires got used up. You got to be quick in these first 15 to 20 laps before this tire wear just is nowhere to be utilized.
Good wobble there from Ethan Burrell.
Burrell's got to be careful that Stanley doesn't make any other contacts, that back bumper of the 37. And Scott Crump just looking good for himself. Crump, winner of Atlanta a few weeks ago. 90 machine winning at a super speedway mile and a half course. It's a little different of super speedway tendencies here at Las Vegas. It's very quick contact as they're going to go 3 wide for second place again, and that's some close racing. It's somehow, woo, you could not fit a piece of paper in between that of Ethan Burrell and Joyner's back bumper and front bumper, but somehow they survive up front. And Dave, this is not this. Latham Joyner is so fun to watch, but at the same time, he really is trying to give everyone a heart attack at this point.
He's great for broadcasts. We love it.
Oh, we really do. As you see the rest of the field, a gaggle of cars in the middle of the pack, still side by side. Majority of up front drivers keeping themselves in line. Those that are side by side, that's the drivers just inside of the top 10. Those are some playoff drivers in the mix here, as you see Trey Holmes kind of being the leader of this little small pack. Also seeing that of the 39. Cody McCurdle trying to make that outer lane work for the 39. But the 25, Joshua Freed, as well as Brent Jones, going to be working with one another. And also going to be seeing Dustin Dorr, who had a struggle on the pit stops. He's going to be stuck and mired in the middle of this group as Jesse Rasmus. That pit stop really helping the 70 machine as they're getting back into the fray here. They fell all the way back to that of almost 20th. Now almost just outside of the top 10. Looking at some of the damage reports of drivers that had to stay in pit road for extended time. It's mainly because of small contacts of drivers, the way that you just saw them jostling high, low, and getting into whatever lane they feel like can make them move forward. You can get some contact here or there, and there are over that of 8 or 9 trucks that stay in pit road for an extended time to get damage repair at our stage break, just showing there's a lot of damage that can be grabbed if you're not careful. And any type of damage, especially at this large of a track, mile and a half in distance, we're closing in on halfway. Drivers have to recognize there is always an opportunity If you get any type of fender damage, it's going to hurt you aerodynamically and hurt you on the straightaway speeds. That is where you cannot afford to lose any of your runs, as still seeing that of drivers dashing high-low. And it's Matthew Weeks back here in 7th for the 11 machine, really trying to just save those tires, it looks like, for the 11, as well for Ethan Burrell. They're staying very cautious, recognizing how long this race could be as they're settling in, but you can't go back any deeper, because then you're going to be caught up in this giant mess that you're seeing on screen.
Yeah, you start to put yourself in the danger zone around people who don't have as much to drive for as you do.
As you can see, top 8 all playoff contenders. That of Corey Abbott, as well as that of Sean Ryan, Van de Sant, and also going to be the 12 of Norgard, going to be stuck all the way back in the back half of the field. They've got a long way to go to get back into the fray. But the drivers that are being aggressive up front, Scott Crump, no surprise. He found himself up front, willing to continue with this speed. It's Ethan Stanley that's doing a great job keeping up with the 90 machine. Latham Joyner not able to keep up with those top 2 as we ride on board with Ethan Stanley. Get a sense of what it's like driving here at Las Vegas and see the drivers, how aggressive the bumps can be in the center of the corner, out of the corner, trying to keep that wheel as steady as possible, utilizing the draft and down into turn number 3. Slight let off, trying to keep your momentum as fast as you can be. And then on the exit of the corner of turn 4 is usually where you see drivers working that wheel the most, as you're trying to make sure that vehicle, if it gets loose on the exit of the corner, you can really work it, keep it done, get that seesaw action, keep that truck straight. But Stanley doing a good job to at least keep up with Crump, but this is when things get difficult because of the dirty air. It's so hard to make any passes from this point on if Scott Crump doesn't just burn off these tires and start to really show some weakness at any point. But really, gotta say, Dave, that 90 machine looking quite stout on the fact that he could just hold that white line through the corners almost every single lap.
Yeah, he's right where he wants to be too. He likes to be out front, keep all the crap behind him and all the danger, just run away.
As up front, they continue to race as clean as they can. Some other drivers that are on some pretty big moves. We've got some massive movers, those that are inside of our top 10. That 39 machine of Cody McCurl up 21 positions. Brent Jones is up 16 positions. Joshua Freed behind them in the 25, up 12 positions. Wesley Crump, who was involved with our first caution of the day, he's up 21 positions and in 7th place. This is a great crowd that we're seeing of drivers that have been able to move forward. And then you look deeper in the field and you got some question marks with Ethan Burrell, Matthew Weeks, that 37 of the 11. They're back in the thick of things. Something, either they're on extreme save mode or they are in some serious troubles with some damage that they're dealing with. Hard to say until we get more information on what's going on with them, as we've had 2 drivers so far call it a night. If you are just joining us, we're past halfway. Scott Crump, Ethan Burrell, they were the ones who dominated the first stage of this race for the first 35 laps. Scott Crump found himself winning that stage. We've had 2 yellows so far. We had our stage break caution, and then we had our first yellow back on lap number 4. 2 drivers out of the race. That's the 7 of Bracey and also the 18 of Joshua Personette, who have just called it a night. We're on lap 55, and we're seeing these drivers so far having a great run for themselves. This is the first race of the playoffs for that of the 2022 B season of the Smokin Gobbler Barbecue Truck Series, as these drivers are racing for that of the JD Hilltop Salvage 150 here at Las Vegas. We got plenty of great racing throughout the week, but for this series, we are, again, start of the playoffs. We got 3 more races after this before we set our stage for that final race at Kentucky. We got the Roval next week. The race after that is at North Wilkesboro, and then Talladega being that cutoff race before we figure out our top 5 that will race for a championship at Kentucky. Plenty of great action also on track, as you see here, that of the 83 of Wesley Crump, and also that of Robert Hill Jr. racing for 7th place, as that 05 able to make that pass cleanly for himself.
Yeah, Robert's had a good run tonight. Started out strong, he qualified well, and he's been staying there in the top 10 the entire night. So good run for him.
as everyone that's inside of our top 10 all had moved up in position. For Scott Crump, it was just one. Everyone else, it's been a multitude of positions they've had to go forward in. And there have been some big losers so far this evening, and there's been some big winners as well, as we're starting to see drivers picking how they want to run the rest of this race. 57 laps in, coming to lap 58 as Scott Crump comes across the line. But some drivers that have been on the grind. See here the 69 machine. You've also going to see that of the 997. All three drivers that have been caught up in some type of wreck tonight. Back here battling for that of 19th position, for that of Sean Ryan, for that of Mark Murphy, Alexander Van de Sant. And Van de Sant, his woes continue as he actually just got into the outside wall in the center of the corner. That 97, it just goes from bad to worse. He had a penalty, an EOL penalty, to start the night off with having just the wrong banner on for himself. Then comes into racing, gets into the wall back at lap 15, and now again it just continues to go terribly for one of our drivers inside of our top 5 of points to start the night off. But with the way this is going, that 97 could be bounced out of the top 5 heading to the Roval next week.
Yeah, he's had a 2-step forward, 3-step backward kind of night. Every time he makes up a lot of spaces, and he makes a mistake or has in the wrong spot at the wrong time, and backwards he goes.
Right now, trying to hold off that of Michael Hosak, who is technically last place on track. As we move back up front, some side-by-side racing. That's Brett Jones in the 89 machine on the outside. The 25 of Joshua Freed on the inner groove. And then Robert Hill Jr. following and trying to figure out where to place himself. Who does he follow as Joshua Freed comes up in front? Also going to be seeing some of that side-by-side action behind them, as that's going to be battling for 10th place between Matthew Weeks and that of Wesley Crump. As hard racing all around, playoff drivers trying to carve their way forward and gain these positions, while other drivers trying to have some of their best runs of the season. As we got 40 laps to go here tonight. Dave, it's been a pleasure to be up in the booth. I know we're missing our regular commentators with sickness, but big thanks for letting me be up in here. And man, I gotta say, these guys certainly have put on a great show this evening, but with 40 laps to go, who knows what we're gonna see for the rest of this.
Yeah, our truck guys put on a great show every Sunday night. We have fun. I miss Gerald this week. I hope he's feeling better. He had a little bit of a fever. Harry's been feeling bad the last couple weeks. Haven't seen him for a while. Hope he gets back and gets everybody rested up and ready for the rest of the chase. But we're glad to have you fill in tonight, Sam. Always enjoy working with you.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be up here and be able to watch these Elite Racing League drivers as they just continue to develop and get faster all the time, as it is going to be still watching on screen the battling for 6th place as Joshua Freed and also Robert Hill Jr. They've got to be careful because here comes Jesse Rasmus of that 70 machine, as well as Matthew Weeks. They have been just tag teaming going forward with one another. And they've got to be careful here with that hard racing of those 3 drivers. You got to pick and choose where to go. Matthew Weeks starting to drift up as 05 was starting to come down. They've almost were about to make contact there on the exit of the corner. Luckily, kept to their P's and Q's. And drivers over the radio starting to see in driver chat, pit stops could be underway here very shortly.
Green flag pit stops, always a new way to shake things up. Wesley Crump looks like he's the first one dropping.
83 going to be the first to come, and he was around that of 13th, 14th position coming into pit road. No one else going to be following suit with the 83 machine. This extreme undercut could be advantageous for himself. Excited to see how it's going to work out. Would have preferred if Wesley had come in with another driver, maybe worked with the draft to find themselves going forward. But even if he doesn't have the draft, Wesley is going to be running about a second faster than our leader just by himself. So this is going to be a good advantage for the 83 as long as no one else comes into pit road. That means he's going to be hurting for tires later on in this race, as you see Rasmus as well as seeing that of Weeks. Here comes Ethan Burrell coming with his late surge. Drivers that were really protecting their tires in the early portions of this race, seeing the long run get berthed at some extra boost. You also see Trey Holmes going to be getting in the fray of this gaggle of cars. Again, this is all battling for that of 5th place. 5th back to that of 11th is this group of drivers. As Brett Jones, 5th position for the 89. Seeing drivers going everywhere, high, low, and just like that, Matthew Weeks got squeezed up in the outside lane, somehow kept it off. But man, Weeks is not happy over the radio with that of Joshua Freed. Didn't feel the respect given as a playoff driver. Being blocked all the way up to that outside wall, and here comes Weeks to the inside. Freed almost coming down into the 11. Ethan Burrell now going to just attach the back bumper of the 11. Mostly expecting to see that. Try to pick who you think has got that momentum to go forward. Is that a turn number 2? We're on lap 67 so far. And over the radio, just got word Destin Dorr is going to be deciding to come into pit road for the 32 machine as he's in the middle of the pack. That gives the question to when do our leaders decide to come into pit road? That could be a big advantage for yourself, as that 32 able to come into the pit entry cleanly for themselves. Don't want to be caught with a speeding penalty. Very easy to grab. As you saw there, the 32 got extremely loose with that transition. It is flat, you know, where that transition of the racing surface to the apron to go to the pit entry. So drivers got to be careful not to, 1, spin out, 2, make sure you slow down to pit entry speed, which that pit entry speed is 50 miles per hour. And these drivers running around that of 165 at the lowest speed in the middle of the corner, and their highs up to that of 180. So there's certainly a lot of speed, and then you got to drop down to 50 miles per hour. Certainly a troublesome spot if you were not careful, as Matthew Weeks has made his passes going forward. Same for that of Ethan Burrell. Here comes Brett Jones as well as Jesse Rasmus, all trying to figure out how to get by the 25 machine, and will do so for now. As Holmes is that 80 looking good, as Brett Jones and also Freed just cannot get away from one another. It just seems like they're attached at the hip, the way they continue to stay side by side.
Our closest battle on track right now. Watching what's going on right here.
As you can see on our ticker, great advantage for Scott Crump as well as Stanley. As Joshua Freed continues to have to hold on, you can tell just feeling a lot tighter. Center corner, Brent Jones comes into pit road. Didn't vocally set it, but put it in the driver's chat. So drivers were notified, hey, watch out. Coming into pit road, and Brett Jones going to be the first of our drivers inside of the top 10 to come into pit road. With 30 laps left in this race, I think that's a pretty good call from this 89 machine, especially in the fact that we still have one more extra set of tires. I think that's why a lot of the drivers are still staying out on track, though, is the fact that if you come into pit road, potential chance of you going a lap down is massive. Here comes Ethan Stanley into pit road for the 91, first of our top 3. Dave, here we go. This is the strategy calls of who wants to come in. Is it the early pit stop with the undercuts, or those that try to stay out as long as possible that have the advantage now?
Slides. Had to back up a little bit. That's going to cost him about a half second.
Half second to a second, which is massive time to be giving up when you were coming into pit road and only were about 2 seconds off of our leader. So Ethan Stanley don't want to give up extra time, and actually a really good pit stop even with his slide. So able to minimize that mistake greatly was that of Ethan Stanley. Gets back out there on track. Scott Crump at the 83 that actually did the undercut up hitting that of 9 laps earlier. The 83 actually has already passed Ethan Stanley. So Wesley Crump, based on how this is going, if everyone started to pit now, the 83 could become our leader with this pit cycle going through as we're closing in on 25 laps to go. Another cluster of drivers. Sean Ryan hits pit road, as well as Tyler Dixon of our playoff drivers making their stops. As Scott Crump continues to stay out last lap, still faster than Latham Joyner, and still of the drivers on older tires, the fastest driver on track is still this 90 machine, just showing the strength of the fresh tires. It's Scott Crump now coming into pit road. Here comes Matthew Weeks, Trey Holmes, Jesse Rasmus all piling in as well. Those 3 quick on the brakes. And as well, not caught speeding. That's a big thing. If you get caught speeding, that is what we call, that is a black flag penalty that's given to the drivers. And you get a 40-second hold, which is for sure going to put you a lap down, if not 2 laps down. Drivers cannot afford those types of mistakes, as Latham Joyner now going to be our leader at this time, as Scott Crump services 4 tires, fuel. About to get out there on track, as now the 39 of Cody McCurdle hits pit road for themselves. 25 laps to go. Well, Dave, we got to see exciting pack racing. Now it's the strategy side of green flag pit stops. Oh, it's all about running down the drivers in front of you. And at this current moment, Scott Crump, an extended long time in pit road, and due to the fact of seeing Ethan Stanley, Wesley Crump pit sooner, right now Wesley Crump leading that 91, but not for very long, as Stanley is flying with his fresh rubber compared to the 83.
Yeah, we'll have to see how long it takes Ethan Stanley to get back around Wesley Crump.
It's taken him about that 4 laps just to get to the bumper of the 83. As you can see here, the difference is a big one. These last 3 laps that we've seen that 91 actually get up to full pace. And there he is. And there he goes.
That was not
Stanley.
difficult.
No. And that is a 9-lap difference of old tires to new. And for Ethan Stanley, next driver he's got to worry about, after now getting by that 83, what could be provisional leader, is going to be Scott Crump. And their difference is going to be 3 laps. So Scott Crump and also that of Ethan Stanley, that is going to be the difference to watch out for, as those two, excited to see once they get switched up where they're going to go on this pace, as another large cluster of drivers have hit pit road so far. No speeding penalties. Big kudos to the field so far at that time, as it's going to be seen just 3 more drivers need to come in. That's Robert Hill Jr. That is also Hardcastle and Harrington, still looking to make their final pit stops of the night. 22 laps to go for themselves, as Latham Joyner just said, no, get out of my way, cone. 03 is back out there on track, fell back to 11th place, and is going to be about that of 4 seconds behind our current leader of Ethan Stanley. And honestly, I'm looking at the difference in laps. Latham Joyner is not in the worst spot possible, but certainly it's going to be a hill if he's going to find some extra pace to go forward.
He's going to be in worse position now. The 03 is going to do a drive-through penalty. He drove down the left side lane all the way through the pit lane.
You hate to see simple mistakes like that, and he's going to run angry into pit road. What was looking like a potential chance of a good run, now thrown away, as Joyner's going to just hope for a black flag of some sorts to come out, but he is going to have to come into pit road here in the next that of 2 laps. Otherwise, he could get disqualified. As current leader, Robert Hill Jr., still needing to come into pit road, as Jesse Rasmus on the fresher rubber, saving the 70 drive on by. And over the radio, Robert Hill going to be coming into pit road, so he'll have to stay low and hit his marks. As also Hardcastle and Harrington, top 3, all still needing to come into pit road for themselves. As here comes that of Robert Hill into pit road. And as well as the 05 hit coming into pit road, Latham Joyner also doing his drive-through penalty for the 03. Well, Andrew Hardcastle deciding to stay out. Cody Harrington also staying out. They are banking on a yellow flag to come out at this current time, as that of Hardcastle is going to be staying low. Expect to come into pit road here very shortly. And this is his time to come into pit road. And into pit entry for that of the 20 machine. Cody Harrington in the 66 continues to stay out for another lap. But the battling for what could be the leader, 3rd place, Ethan Stanley, Scott Crump. Crump has caught up to the 91 machine, and this could be for the lead. Again, entire advantage goes to Scott Crump. It's a 3-lap difference. You see how it has been changing throughout this race. It has been a constant gain for Scott Crump, But can the 91 somehow utilize dirty air to hold off this 90 machine who's been the dominator of this evening? It's been all Scott Crump from start to finish practically. We saw that of Ethan Burrell show some brilliance. Ethan Stanley tried his best to hold off the 90 machine, but it's been Crump, 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 and give him the front soon here for the 90 as he dives it down low, gets all the speed he wants with that extra grip, and Scott Crump trying to make the pass for second place as he's not fully clear. See if the 91 can get a good run out of turn number 2 onto the backstretch. Also having some draft assistance from that of Latham Joyner in front of them. Keeping it equal distances. Gotta hope they don't hit one another. Scott Crump gets clear, moves up the 90. Now gonna be in second place is Cody Arrington. We still wait for that 66 to hit pit road.
Crump and Stanley got a pretty good gap then back to Ethan Burrell then. Matthew Weeks and Ethan Burrell around 3.5, 4 seconds behind.
Yeah, and the big thing that's going to be hurting Matthew Weeks is he is on the same tire stint as that of Scott Crump. So he'll most likely be able to catch up to Ethan Stanley at this pace that they're going right now. But you can see there the difference. It's starting to taper off for Matthew Weeks on that difference. We'll see on this lap if there is any major gains. There really isn't a lot. The driver that could try to make some noise is Ethan Burrell. Burrell technically has a 2-lap advantage over Scott Crump and Matthew Weeks. The only issue is that he's about that of 5 seconds off of Scott Crump, and that is quite a large margin to try to gain. And he's running about 0.2 faster than Scott Crump, and with 14 laps left in this race, you look at the numbers, even if he keeps up at that pace, it just is not enough time for the 37 to catch up. Crump hoping for this race to stay green, and also hoping to see Cody Arrington coming to pit road soon as that 66 now making his sign into pit road. It was a valiant effort waiting for a caution flag to come out, and never did, and give Scott Crump the lead as he comes out of turn number 4. And Scott Crump comes in tonight. He was 5th of our top 5 drivers in points coming in tonight of our 14 that made the playoffs. He's added 1 pole this season. 1 win was Atlanta. And he's gotten 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s. He has certainly been trying to keep himself out of trouble, but a driver that has been in trouble for the majority of the night. Here's Alexander Van de Sent, who somehow has made the charge up to 13th place. And now trying to figure out how to get by that of Corey Abbott in that 21, but Corey in the much fresher tires at 24, hoping that extra grip is going to allow himself to hold off the 97, who is racing quite mad at this time after the way that his night's been going. 12 laps to go. And Dave, it hasn't been a caution-filled race. There certainly have been mistakes made of getting into the outside wall for some contenders that couldn't afford to have issues. But overall, I got to give credit to the field. They have kept it pretty clean and green for the majority of this race, where if you looked at how practice was going, there was a high chance that this race could have been a wreck fest.
Yeah, I think in practice they were trying to see if they could bump in the center of the corners, and they were realizing that you couldn't bump draft there without really just screwing somebody over. So they've really raced respectful tonight so far. Now that could all go out the window with the last 10, but up to this point.
Yeah, I mean, it really could go out the window if drivers want to just get overly aggressive with one another. At this current moment, though, 10 laps to go for that of Scott Crump. He's got a second gap lead over that of Ethan Stanley. He's got that of 3.3 seconds over Matthew Weeks, 4.7 over Ethan Burrell. And all credit to Scott Crump. He was kept his nose, that 90 machine's nose, out of trouble. That always seems to be Scott Crump's issue, is he has a fast truck, fast car, any series that we run. It is always a top 5 contender, but then he gets caught up with a late incident, he gets caught up with a penalty, he gets into a wreck. It just seems like bad luck follows the 90 machine with his over-aggressive driving. That always seems to be where his slip-up is, but if he can have a race like this where he's up front, has the clean air, doesn't have to worry much about other drivers around him, these are the races where Scott Crump just thrives, and we're seeing it here tonight.
And we brought this up in a lot of the series as the year's gone on. Is Scott's really fixed whatever his issue was that caused his blinking, and that couldn't have helped him at all in some of the issues he got caught up in, the net code and things like that. And he's really squared that away, and we haven't even seen a single blink from him tonight. And he is really strong when he's having a good night.
Yeah, we saw that of Joshua Personette. He got penalized and pushed to the back with blinking issues, and that easily could have been Scott Crump if his issues had continued on. As we look at some of the other drivers and battling for positions, Matthew Weeks up to 11th as he's just trying to run his own race. Surprisingly, losing ground to our top three. Thought he would have been gaining. Ethan Burrell stalled out with 5 seconds off our leader. And I think that could be attributed to Trey Holmes, who is caught up. Holmes might be just 2 lap older tires in this 37, but obviously, as you could tell, has been able to save these tires a little bit better than 37. Wasn't pushing very aggressive, was willing to take whatever he can get. Trey Holmes, a non-playoff driver, trying to play a little bit spoiler on advantage, and caution flag waves. A huge wreck for drivers in the middle of the field, and it's the 0-5 of Robert Hill Jr. involved.
Oh no, Robert.
And this is that type of incidences as Hill gets caught up in another. That is an after effect incident.
Yeah, that's a second issue.
I saw there 3 wide into that. I was seeing other drivers, the 12, the 47 T-boning. I think we need to go on board with Robert Hill, see what the steering looked like on this, because it's just an interesting, runs low and deemed a racing incident. But this after, though, is where things get interesting, because just comes right back up. And that's an awkward spot to find yourself. And you don't expect to see those types of incidents happen, of drivers having those after moves.
Yeah, I'm not sure what race control is going to do about that.
Well, this was exactly what Scott Crump did not want to have. He came over the radio and said, "Are you kidding me?" Because that caution now allows everyone to come in, take their last set of tires. And
Ethan Stanley's going to come out in first place.
Yeah, he went with the 2-tire strategy call for Ethan Stanley. You're also going to have 2 tires for that of Corey Abbott. And also all the way back out of the field for that of Hardcastle, taking 2 tires as well. These drivers have been feeling a little tight. And a driver that's decided to stay out, that of Robert Hill Jr.
He's smoking heavily.
Yeah. And with Robert Hill Jr. still out there, I'm curious if he's going to just pull into pit road now, or if he's just going to get forced out. It looks like pit road is where the 0-5 will head now for himself. Would have been fine. Didn't have the blown engine after that initial contact, but then it came up, got into a second involvement with that of Sam Boutwell, and that's going to be the night for the 0-5 of who ran up front at a current moment. Sam Boutwell gets back out on track after getting the service done. See here, Sam Boutwell. This was the incident, just holding his line at the white line, not coming up back on the racing surface, while that of Robert Hill Jr. deciding to just fly that 0-5 up the track, and well, Boutwell's fine. Robert Jr. Hill is toasted and done. As Boutwell gets back out on track, and with a majority of drivers getting some heavy contact, 47 has a chance to gain some positions as 0-5 from a potential top 15 run to now going to be finishing back in 27th position. That is a tough pill to swallow. But Dave, this now puts us in a questionable spot because these drivers, 4 to go, lights are still on. That means we are going to be finding ourselves in an inside the regulation green, white, checkered for the field.
Yeah, and real quickly before we get to this wild action, I got a couple of reads I better get in. Blue Egg Marketing. Blue Egg is the marketing department for small business. Blue Egg small business owners. Blue Egg is your biggest fan. And also our other Premier partner is Breezy Camp. Breezy is a venture-backed tech company based in Toronto and Boston. They are on a mission to reimagine the group photo experience. Gone are the days of carrying around a tripod and selfie stick. They help their customers and users tell better stories around meaningful moments. They let anyone tap into nearby cameras to capture group memories at iconic places as if users were controlling their own native camera app, except now from a perfectly positioned vantage point. Today you can find Breezy at well-known sports venues and cultural landmarks across 4 continents. Squeeze those in.
Ooh. All the reads are in. We're good. Sponsors are good.
Yep.
Drivers are settled in. Hopefully you've got your popcorn ready because this is going to be a chaotic start. We've seen the drivers, fresh rubber, they are aggressive. And Dave kind of threw it out there, might have jinxed it by saying these drivers, they've been aggressive but somewhat clean. Well, I think we could throw clean out the window. We're about to see some scrap metal be made as we're about to go back to green flag racing for some, not overtime, but green-white checkered racing.
We'll have 3
Drivers
green,
have
white
been
checkers,
reminded.
and this does not count as one, right?
Yeah, that is it. And the drivers have been reminded that there are 3 if needed. So technically, we could have a total of 4 green, white checkered attempts. This is not an overtime attempt. This is inside the regulations. Let's see how the end of our first race of the playoffs for that of the 2022 B season of the Smokin Gobbler Barbecue Truck Series. The JD Hilltop Salvage 150 is back underway with green flag action. Ethan Stanley taking the 2-tire strategy, going to be taking off. Scott Crump, Matthew Weeks, a little bit of blocking action. It's the 11, gives the bump to the 90, gets him loose, but holding on is Scott Crump for now. Going to be seeing that major hold for the 90 machine. Talked about how unluckiness could strike. Somehow holds on. Ethan Stanley going to be already snaking his way through that of turns 3. We need the white flag. The white flag will call this official as at a turn number 4. Ethan Stanley, he's got the world behind him, the 91 machine. White flag is out. This race is official. Gloves are off. Here we go. Scott Crump to the outside. Stanley going to be on the inside. Matthew Weeks holding strong, but here comes that of Burrell. Going to be in that second groove. Stanley gets loose. Here comes Crump. Here comes Matthew Weeks. Stanley gets a bump. There's wrecking behind. They're going to be seeing Crump holding that of Crump holding up for himself, but will that of Stanley get the surge that he needs? Burrell on the back bumper of the 90. Can he go up to the wall? They're going to be going 3 wide. Stanley by a nose. No, it's Crump taking it at the line.
Holy moly.
7 thousandths of a second. Give it to Scott Crump, who almost saw it drifting away. You knew Burrell was going to go to that 3rd line. Stanley just needed another tap. Maybe then he could have had a second opportunity, but just was not close enough. And you see it on the ticker. It was so close. The ticker doesn't even know how to give it to him. But Scott Crump, by 7 thousandths of a second, gets that finish. Woo! Well, Dave,
that was exciting. Rubber.
I mean, Ethan Stanley, he did everything he could. I think if you look back at it, it was that little bobble out of turn 2 that really cost him the momentum. He tried to get all that speed back through 3 and 4. It just wasn't enough. That outside lane too strong as Scott Crump gets to burn it down. But you see here, this is coming to the white flag. And Crump's trying to set up. Where does he want to go? Gets down low, gets that draft help, bounces the outside. But I think this is where we saw a lot of this finish kind of drift away. Stanley drifts up, gets loose, had to back off, gets loose again with the side draft, and that's that moment I was talking about. He got the tap and the help by Matthew Weeks, but the momentum's already gone. He just has to make up way too much ground, gets the bump, gets the surge, he holds and paints that white line, but it's just not enough. At this point, that outside groove, too strong. Burrell's got too much ground. He's got to make up on that 3rd lane. Matthew Weeks is trying his best to try to get down on the apron, but a block by Stanley. And Stanley's trying to get any type of surge. He goes down to practically the grass. But Scott Crump by a nose comes down. And that little jolt of coming down the hill, or a little bit extra inertia, gets the 90 machine that little nose and gets him the win. Well, Scott Crump had a little bit too much fun. He's already bended it into that inside wall. Oh, that was a blast to cover. And Dave, I know that we got some drivers probably expecting to have some fun talking with us about how that night went as they are coming in quickly. We're going to see here the unofficial results. You see at the top of the board, Scott Crump, 7 thousandths of a second for himself over that of Ethan Stanley. And we're going to start things off with our winner, that of Scott Crump, get his thoughts on how tonight went. Scott, it's Sam and Dave up at the booth. Congratulations on this win. Man, how are you feeling after that one?
Oh man, I thought I lost it when that caution came out. I didn't know what to think after that because that caution didn't come out. I had it easily in the bag or whatever. I was just cruising. So yeah, it just definitely made it interesting. I thought I lost it right there at the line. It was so close.
It was very close. You got a great surge. We looked back on that last lap, but we saw the run you got out of 4 coming to the white flag. Was the outside always the game plan for yourself on that last lap, or was there any thought of potentially trying to make a deking move if you couldn't make that pass coming out of 2?
I figured he was going to protect the inside there. That was pretty much his only chance. If I got to the inside, I would have easily got by him. I say once I got to the outside, if it was just me and him, I would have taken him. But then the trucks behind us caught up and it started pushing him, so that definitely helped him a lot. I think I got lucky enough. I think I had Ethan behind me. He gave me a nice little push, just enough for the win.
That he certainly did. As we're at the start of the playoffs. Congratulations on this win. We're heading to the Roval. How are you feeling about the Roval coming up next week?
Probably not going to beat RC. I know he's probably going to win it, but I'll probably have top 5 speed at least, maybe top 3. Last time we ran at the Roval and Cup, I did pretty well. I had a pretty good speed there.
Well, Scott, again, congratulations on this win, and now the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Give a shout-out to my team, Latham and Wesley. They ran pretty good today. I think Latham was up there, but I think he went through too many pit stalls. We're with Stay Tuned Sports, Esports, and also give a shout-out to my sponsor, Stay Tuned Sports Podcast, and give a shout-out to y'all up in the booth, and give a shout-out to my grandfather who was watching tonight. And I guess we got a few more races, and hopefully we'll be in the championship race. So.
Well, after the run here tonight, I could say that you certainly are a driver to watch out for. That is going to be your winner here tonight, Scott Crump in the 90 Machine. Congratulations on the win, and good luck next week at the Roval.
All right, thank you.
As we go from victory lane, we got to talk to our first loser. That's going to be Ethan Stanley, who had a great surge there at the end. Ethan, it's Sam up in the booth. Congratulations on a second-place finish. But, man, how are you feeling after that one?
Yeah, I mean, feeling pretty good. I just took a risk there at the end and took 2 tires. Just really my only chance. Scott had a lot more speed than me tonight, and good win for him.
Yeah, I mean, you showed plenty of great speed there in the second half after the stage break was done. Were you surprised on how those 2 tires were going to work there at the end, or were you expecting a little bit more grip?
I mean, I had no idea going into it how it was going to pan out, but felt like it might be a little bit loose with the left tires being old. But yeah, I think that might have cost me in the end, but it was worth a shot and try to get the win. Still don't have a win on the season, but doing pretty good in the points.
And that you came in second in points. RC was the points leader coming into tonight, but he didn't show up. So that means that it's going to bump you up either to stay in second in points or be first after the way that tonight ran off. How confident are you heading into these last 3 races before we get to our cutoff race to run at Kentucky? How are you feeling about the Roval as well as North Wilkesboro coming up?
I mean, I love the Roval. Big road course guy myself. And I feel like I should have a pretty good result there. Same with Wilkesboro. Wilkesboro, I love. Great track, especially in the trucks. A lot of fun. So feeling pretty confident coming into the end of the season here.
Well, Ethan, a fantastic run for yourself. Congratulations on second place. And now the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, shout-outs to all my sponsors, 3Chi, Glitch Energy, Killer Jerky, and esportsfurniture.com, as well as my team, Quantum Threat. Thanks to you guys for doing the broadcast and making this all happen, and thanks to Chad and everybody else in the league that makes it happen.
Well, that is going to be Ethan Stanley. Congratulations on second place, and good luck heading to the Roval next week.
Thank you.
As we go from second place, let's head to third place, where we get to talk to that of Ethan Morrell and get Ethan's thoughts on how tonight went. Ethan, it's Sam up in the booth. Congratulations on third place. I know you wanted to make that third lane work just a little bit better, but man, how are you feeling after that one?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I feel good. I was a little bummed. I kind of in the middle portion of the race, I got a little carried away on tire saving and kind of got myself buried deep in the field. So I'm just thankful I had that opportunity with that last caution to take another shot at it. And I'm so thankful I got back up to third because I really felt like I had speed tonight. And but either way, it was a good win by Crump. He was stout all night, so happy for him to get locked in.
Yeah, I mean, Ethan, talking about these next couple of races, you've been strong in a lot of them, but coming to the Roval, North Wilkesboro, and then the wild card of Talladega, how are you feeling playoff-wise as being one of the drivers that came in already inside of our top 5 and now having a tough task to try to survive at those tracks?
Yeah, I tell you what, it's a tough schedule, and you know, they're Elite's really making us earn it to get our spots in the final 5. So thankfully, I built up a good point gap in the regular season, and I think I can run pretty well at the Roval, and you know, North Wilkesboro should be solid as well. So I'm feeling confident. Hopefully, we'll pick up a win to advance that way.
Oh, we hope to see you perform well. Ethan, before we let you go, though, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, shout out you, Sam, and Dave. Thanks for stepping in for us, Sam. Appreciate it. Always do a great job up here calling the races. Shout out to Matthew Weeks. He had a good run tonight. I know he also wanted just a little bit more, but he did a great job. And all the guys at Pro Edge Racing for just being an awesome team. We always have a great time racing here, and yeah, we'll go and try to get them next week.
Well, that's going to be your third place finisher this evening, Ethan Burrell in the 37 machine. Congratulations on third place, and good luck heading to the Roval next week.
Thank you.
As that is going to be your post-race interviews with your top 3. Well, Dave, last thing for us to do is get our final thoughts. Man, how are you feeling after that one? And how do you feel the drivers are going to do next week at the Roval?
Wow, that was really an energizing finish. It was really exciting. I can't wait for the Roval and see what that brings. And this truck nights just seem to always be the end of my week, and always exciting action. Love it. Love it.
Oh, man, I love it, too. It's always a blast to come back and hop in the booth and cover some of these Sunday night trucks, guys. It is a pleasure to watch them. But hopefully next week, the original crew that we have here for the trucks will be back. I hope good health for them as well as they're trying to get better for any of their other future broadcasts as well. Well, for myself, Sam Dyer, for David Huckleberry, thank you for watching the Elite Racing League for that of the 2022 Smokin Gobbler Barbecue Truck Series on here of the Elite Racing Network. Thank you for watching us on Monday night, but as you've been watching on screen on the left, there have been plenty of great racing action to be watched throughout the week here on the Elite Racing Network, so make sure to go book the next race to be watched. Can't wait for the next coverage for the trucks. We're back next week. It's the next race number 204 for this round. It is the Roval Road Course Racing.